Hello, welcome to another episode of Flying High with Flutter. I'm your host, Alan Wyma. Today I'm with Kevin Brendel.
Hi.
He is, I believe you're one of the owners, right? You're not, you're one of the owners of, let me see if I got this name right, Coneno, who's actually made a very interesting app called QuikFlow. Now, Coneno, I'm so curious about the name. Is that actually a German name too?
It is not a German name. It actually doesn't have a lot of meaning as far as I know. The name was chosen by some of my business partners. It's just a nice sounding name, to be honest.
Now, do you have a problem with people saying that in Germany or no?
In German, it's not hard to pronounce. It's just that people sometimes have trouble remembering it or spelling it correctly.
Yeah, it's definitely unique. That's a good thing. So it should have been easy to get the .com, right?
Exactly. That's what I think one of the primary motivations behind choosing this name was.
Now, how long did it take you to remember the spelling of Coneno?
For me, I remembered it immediately, to be honest.
Oh, okay. I thought maybe it might take you a couple of times because you said you didn't come up with it yourself, right?
I didn't call it that myself, but no, for me, it wasn't much of an issue, to be perfectly honest.
Now, how many different names did you guys go through before choosing this one?
To be honest, so the founders of the company were my business partners. I joined later, so I wasn't a part of the process of choosing this name. I mean, I can tell you a little bit about how we chose QuikFlow, the QuikFlow name, which I manage more.
All right, let's so we're kind of, yeah, you're right. We're actually kind of venturing off from the main topic. So, yeah, QuikFlow. I mean, I ran into your app on Reddit. It's basically a mind mapping, but not only mind mapping, right? It's other things too. Maybe you can give a quick introduction about QuikFlow.
Yeah, so we say it's like a mind mapping for flows, so for flowcharts and for mind maps essentially. But what it really is like it works like a mind mapping app, but you're not restricted to a tree structure. So you can have, so each item can have multiple parents, and you can also have connect them to their parents again. So you can have arbitrary graph structures essentially. The goal was, if you want to create like a flowchart, usually use like a normal flowcharting application. And most of these are built like graphic design apps, right? You draw your boxes, you draw your lines, etc. And then very quickly you are very focused on trying to arrange everything, and maybe you want to update something in the middle of the graph and you have to move everything around. And suddenly you spend more time thinking about the layout and the styling than you think about the actual structure which you are trying to create. Whereas in the mind mapping application, you can just very quickly focus on your thoughts, right? And it does the layout automatically for you. And the idea was to create an app which allows you to focus on your thoughts even while you are creating something which is not a tree structure, and it automatically handles the layout for you, and you can then adjust it slightly like the mind mapping app by reordering stuff, etc. And that's what QuikFlow does.
It's quite interesting, yeah, because I think most other mind mapping apps, you actually have to kind of draw like where those bubbles go, right? The nodes.
In most flowcharting apps.
But not also mind mapping too?
Yeah, mind mapping. I mean, what do you mean by you have to draw where it goes?
If I remember correctly, right, you actually have to draw a line from one node to somewhere else and then let go, and then the node will then appear. It's been a while since I worked with something like this.
Yeah, I think it depends. There are some mind mapping apps like where you just press like tab and then a child node appears, or you press enter and a sibling node appears. And this is also the same workflow which we used for QuikFlow. And then you can like draw additional connections.
Oh, how many connections can a single node have?
Unlimited in our case.
And how does it figure out? I mean, because to me, it's quite interesting that the layout, you don't have to lay it out yourself. It automatically lays out all by itself. How do you figure out how to lay out the content?
Well, it's very complicated, and it took us many months of work to actually write the algorithm. As you can imagine, the algorithm itself is like a bit of the secret sauce because it's what really makes it all work. So I cannot tell you exactly how the algorithm works. But I can tell you with regard to Flutter that it's all written in Dart, so we don't use any external libraries, etc. It's all written in Dart, and Dart was actually reasonably performant because you have to do some very intense calculations, let's say it like that, to get into the state. Because originally, the original prototypes, they had like a normal like mind mapping layout, and this is very simple, obviously. Like you just draw the tree, like you can calculate how high each of the subtrees is, etc. And then you can recursively calculate the whole tree layout. But in our case, when you have like this flowchart layout where you don't use all of the vertical space because you have to be able to like condense it vertically again. So it only uses the space which is really necessary, unless otherwise the graphs start looking very weird and way too big, etc., and are not very helpful. It's extremely complicated, at least we found. And also we have like this connector algorithm, not just the node layout algorithm, but also the connector algorithm, where we wanted to be able to draw like the connections between the nodes, which can flow like diagonally through the whole graph, right? So they have to avoid all of the other nodes if you want to avoid overlaps. But we still didn't want to have users to have to manually do all of this layout of the connectors. So we just have like, you have like a quadratic Bezier curve with just one control point, and then from that we calculate like a route through the nodes, which is fine without any overlaps, and which also looks nice, hopefully. And so we have two layout algorithms which work in conjunction with each other. But I cannot tell you exactly how they work because that's secret.
Oh, that's part of the secret sauce. Yeah, I mean, it's nice because you have basically two types of plans, right? If you download the app, you can just run it, but it's a little bit limited, right? And then you have a pro feature.
Exactly. So we wanted to make sure that if you download the app, you can try for free. So without the trial, even all of the features which make the app special. So you can use all of the layout features. You can do all of the stuff which is really new about the app. But obviously, we also need to make some money. So we have like the pro features. So if you want to have specific colors or specific styling, etc., then you can buy the app either via subscription or via one-time purchase. And I hope that gives a good opportunity for users to try everything out, see what makes the app special, and then pay for it if they want to create some really nice looking graphs. And also, if you like choose your subscription and cancel it, you will still be able to open all of your files without losing anything in the free version. And also, you can send the files to other people and they can open them with the free version, even edit them. They just can't adjust the colors, but the colors will still stay there and you can save them again. So
yeah, I thought that was quite interesting. I mean, the pricing is not too bad. It's just $30 for a lifetime fee. So what's the point of having a subscription if I could just pay that one price?
Well, we just wanted to give users a choice, right? Personally, I mean, originally we wanted to go with the subscription route because, like other apps, they also do this because if we want to maintain the app for a very long time. So a subscription is often something which we have seen other developers do because it just gives you like the recurring revenue, so you can justify keeping updating the app. But in our case, like we know users don't always like subscriptions, and we personally also feel like it's an app you won't use it every day for like 3 years, right? You will probably use it sometimes. And that's why we personally probably would prefer a one-time purchase. So we added a one-time purchase, but also gave the option of having a subscription for some users who maybe only need it for like 2 months to finish maybe their bachelor's thesis or something. And we offer both. We put the pricing in such a way that we don't feel any option is obviously better than the other. So it's a true choice for the users. And we have also seen from the data that actually it's a pretty reasonably equal split between all of the different options. So many users are actually choosing the subscription, but also many users choose the one-time purchase. So it seems to be that people actually enjoy both or interested in both.
For the subscription, are people buying month by month or yearly?
Both. I mean, most people start with the monthly subscription, probably because they want to try out the app at first. And we cannot, unfortunately, I think the App Store does not give us the option to offer a free trial for like 2 weeks, like we do with the subscriptions for the one-time purchase. So obviously the subscription is is the only option if you want to try the pro features for free. But you can then cancel, and then once it has run out, you can buy the one-time purchase again. But the retention is a bit higher, I think, for the yearly purchase. So in the end, if you look at the actual paying users, it's not that weight one way or the other.
Now, do you have an idea about the amount of volume that you guys are selling, or is that a secret?
I mean, right now it's not a very high volume. We haven't really started our marketing campaign yet because we are still adding some more features and looking at some feedback, etc. It's like the first real product which we are launching, right? So far, we have been developing for our clients. We have been developing software for them. We have been doing support contracts, etc. So we know how software development and maintenance works, but we haven't really had our own products which we sold directly to consumers yet. So we just want to gather some experience, and now the feedback seems to be pretty good. So we will probably over the next few weeks release some big updates. There are some very big updates incoming, and then we will start doing some more marketing. And also, like, currently it's only on macOS, but we build it with Flutter. You can imagine that we don't want to stay just on macOS, etc. So we will expand further, and then the volume will hopefully also go up significantly.
What was the reason for choosing Flutter? This is a really good question. You talked about how Dart is really good in terms of the Dart, like language itself. It's quite performant enough for what you want to do, right, with the algorithm.
Yeah, the language. I mean, that's one reason, right? The performance is pretty good. I mean, I can imagine maybe with JavaScript, with Electron, we might have had some more trouble. But to be honest, one of the main reasons was when we started developing QuickFlow. We looked at different options, right? We also considered native development and made some prototypes there. But I personally have quite a lot of experience with Flutter already. So I started using Flutter. Actually, I wrote my first Flutter app in 2018. So not too long after Flutter was initially, the 1.0 was released. And have been developing various Flutter apps since then. So it was obviously one of the first things I thought of. And obviously other options like Electron also exist for desktop applications, but we do not want to be stuck just on the desktop, right? We also want to release, like, probably next platform will probably be iPad OS and iOS probably, and then maybe Android. So we will not just stick to the desktop, and I think Flutter might be a little bit easier to port to the mobile platforms than Electron, which is mostly just a desktop. And personally, I'm also like a bit annoyed that a lot of the Electron apps don't have very good performance. I do not a very good user experience. And with Flutter, it's pretty performant, although you sometimes don't feel it because there's like a bit of an issue on macOS that it doesn't sync correctly to the screen refresh rate, so it can stutter a little, although it's actually very performant. So it always runs at an unsteady 60 FPS, which is not perfectly synced, which isn't the ideal, but we hope they will fix it. And it also has a lower memory footprint than you see on many Electron apps. So we chose it because we have lots of experience with it, and because it seemed like a good choice for this. And compared to native development, maybe that's also important. We felt like, first of all, we would have been stuck on macOS if we wrote like a native Cocoa app, and we would like to expand maybe also to Windows or maybe to the web at some point, and Flutter gives us that option. And also the documentation and developer experience, I feel, are much better with Flutter. So documentation definitely, because and the developer experience with hot reload, etc., is really preferable, at least to me.
Yeah, I was just thinking about the really good path. I mean, I guess one of the first steps would be for you to start getting it to work on Windows, right? That'd probably be the easiest way.
That would definitely be good, because the user base on Windows is obviously much larger than on macOS. Although there are some, first of all, our current user base, obviously, they are Mac users, right? So they are on the Apple ecosystem already. And so the most requested platform from our users so far is that we should support iPad OS. So we probably, if you listen to feedback, we probably will just go like the whole Apple ecosystem first, and then we will expand to Windows. But also there is like the thing, we have like a subscription option, at least. Like we have one-time purchase, we also have subscription. And if users use QuickFlow on multiple different platforms, we want them to be able to access the Pro features which they are paying for with just their one subscription, right? We don't want them to have to subscribe again just because they're using it on Windows and on macOS. So we need to be able to share the subscription state across platforms. And for subscription management, we use RevenueCat right now, and it supports like all of the Apple platforms, and it also supports Android. On Android, it also supports the Amazon Store, but it doesn't support like the Windows Store or any solution that really works on Windows natively. So you would have to build some kind of a custom integration or wait for them to build the Windows version. So in that sense, it would be a bit more complicated to go to Windows, because right now, like RevenueCat doesn't really support it there. And I'm not sure if there are really that many other frameworks which compete with RevenueCat which properly support all of the platforms.
Okay. Yeah. No, that also makes sense too. I'm just kind of curious about why start with macOS versus what you said. Most amount of potential customers are probably in Windows, right?
Yeah, to be honest, it's partly because we built the tool because we ourselves want it, and we use macOS, so that's one of the reasons. And also, like the universal purchases make it very easy for us then to do this, the thing I just talked about with Windows pretty easily on the Apple platform side, so we can easily expand then to iPadOS and to iOS, which also expands our user base significantly. We will maybe, I mean, I probably shouldn't announce too much here, but maybe we will also look into going to setup, which ask them if we can be included there, because I think it's also like for the way people use an app like this is probably also a good option. So there's like a nice ecosystem on macOS and the Apple ecosystem where we can like expand and try out stuff without too much of a hurdle, and we can use it ourselves, because we believe if you use your own product yourself, you will build a better product, right? A lot of the feedback, a lot of the stuff comes from our internal users who use the app. And we just think this is a good way to start. But we build it using Flutter, so we have the option of also expanding to other operating systems eventually.
Yeah, I totally forgot that. I think there's a lot of people who would be using this on iPad.
Yeah.
Now that I think about it, I feel like it's such an iPad app. Now that you mentioned iPad.
Yeah, it appears so, because many people have asked for it already.
Yeah, I'm curious about how the porting process would be. Have you guys started to work on that yet?
I mean, I haven't started porting it to iPad yet. I mean, I did do a little bit of a prototype on seeing how quickly could I get it to run on the web, which was not that slowly just to get it to run initially. But I must say, Flutter on desktop is not completely mature yet, right? For example, there is no multi-window support. There were some issues with like how the input is handled, how the gestures are handled, how the menus are handled, some of which has been addressed in subsequent Flutter releases, although I think most of the solutions are still not fully capable enough to solve our needs. So we had to write quite a lot of custom platform-specific code for macOS. And we would obviously need to write all of that stuff again on another platform. Particularly, the multi-window support is kind of a hack right now, right? QuickFlow supports multi-window, although Flutter does not support multi-window. So what we essentially do is for each new window, we spawn essentially a new Flutter application in each window, and then make them communicate with each other via the native application. And I have read some GitHub issues that maybe this might not work on Windows. I haven't tried it out yet, but would need to see if it works on iPadOS, for example. And we will also have to see how well the pen input works, etc. Because obviously, if you go to the iPad, we want to support all input modalities correctly. And since we had to do quite some stuff to even get like trackpad support properly done on macOS, we might have to do some stuff on iPadOS as well. So I expect that it might not be the easiest porting process, but most of the Flutter code itself is probably going to port straight over.
Yeah, I'm also thinking about running the app using like split screen. You know how you can have two apps running at the same time on there? I think that would be pretty useful, that you'd want to look at one app while making your mapping on the other, right?
Yeah, and this is definitely something which you would want to support if you go to iPadOS, yes. And also like multiple documents side by side, etc.
Yeah, well, yeah, that would also be kind of useful too, to drag and drop from one to another, if that's even possible.
Yeah, or at least to copy and paste. Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what we currently support on macOS. Would need to that's how this app is set up, that you can have multiple documents. So each document is its own window. So in general, we should be able to support this on iPadOS as well, since the app is also like responsive, etc. But would need to look into what the specific challenges will be, particularly as Flutter doesn't support it yet. So right now we are considering maybe we will wait until there's official multi-window support in Flutter, because they are working on it right now. They have also like already shown some proof of concept of it. So maybe we will wait until that is ready, and then we will start porting to additional platforms, because it will be much cleaner, because they have one Flutter app with multiple windows rather than one native app with multiple Flutter apps.
Now, is there any native Mac features that you're working with besides, of course, I mean, you're running through and you're kind of communicating multi window, right? But I'm not really going to count that. I'm talking about maybe integrations with iCloud or something like that.
No, we haven't integrated with iCloud right now. Maybe we will do so in the future, but right now, I mean, you can save the files to whatever cloud provider you want. So in that sense, you can do it. I mean, I don't think we have built some very fancy native features, but we have built like the standard features, right? We have built a dock integration, we have built a share extension integration, we have built a custom clipboard features, we have built custom gesture support, we have even had to rebuild in some ways how mouse clicks are handled and mouse drags, because there were also some issues there. We have build some completely custom main menu and context menu system, which allows us to define all of the items in Flutter and then use them both as context menu items and main menu items, including images, etc. So we have built like a lot of the basic stuff ourselves, just to get the app to work and feel native enough for our users who might not be Flutter fans and might not be so forgiving if the app doesn't feel close enough to a native application. And also like the opening documents, having the app associated with documents, etc.
I mean, that's a lot of rebuilding, right? How long did it take you guys to work on this app?
I think we worked on it, I mean, not completely only on this app, for like 1.5 years.
Now, what was the catalyst to start working on something like this? Because there's so many different tools. Even 1.5 years ago, there's quite a few tools, right? Especially for Mac.
Yeah, there's quite a lot of tools for Mac. One of the catalysts was internally we wanted to like just try out like building our own products and sell it. But why particularly this product? Because first of all, we want something like this ourselves. Something like this does not exist yet. Like I claim that this is the first app which does this same workflow in this way. Like this, there has been no other app which allows you to do this. I mean, there's like a web tool which is called NotEnd to advertise our competition. It also allows you to create like flowcharts with like a keyboard like workflow, but they don't have as much like it's not as fluid as ours, and they lack some of the features which we have, and it's also like a web app and isn't like it's as integrated into your operating system, etc. So I think it's a very novel idea. It's a very novel product which hasn't existed yet before, and we just wanted it to exist ourselves. So this is why we built this kind of application. And also there's like some synergies with some of the other stuff we are doing on a technical level, which I probably shouldn't disclose right now, how this works exactly, but there's also some internal benefits to having this kind of a system.
You did mention that you have some upcoming features, right? Are you allowed to talk about those now?
Yes. So some of the features which you're working on is right now you have styling, like you can change the colors, etc. You can change the shapes, but for each node you essentially have to do it manually. And this is obviously, if you have like a graph, you have like 3 or 4 different types of nodes which you want to have, right? And you don't want to build them manually or copy them over, etc. So we have a feature in the works, which is automatically analyzing your graph and extracting which kinds of node styles you have in there, and also connector styles, and then gives you easy access to them to just style your nodes with these existing node styles. And in combination with that, we will also introduce a feature where there are different like templates. When you create a new file, you can choose like a theme, right? You choose a dark theme, a bright theme, a blue one, etc., right? Where there are predefined colors and node styles and connector styles in there already, so that you don't have to design your own style necessarily each time, as you have to do right now. So this should make the app much more quickly usable. It's called QuickFlow after all, for users, and also put some of the burden away. So this is one of the next features. Probably after that, and we are also working on a feature. I mean, I can also tell about some other features. We're also working on a snapping feature, right? Right now, you have to manually place all of the nodes, and it's a bit hard to get them to align, right? Because the layout is mostly handled automatically for most of the nodes, but there are like root nodes, right, which the other nodes are attached to, and to align those is a bit difficult right now. So we are working on a snapping feature, which will help you, like from other apps, like to align everything properly. And then also probably in the not too distant futures, we will probably introduce a dark mode because lots of people use that. And we think if we build that, that will probably be pretty nice for them if they don't get blinded by the app. So these are some of the features which will probably arrive in the not too distant future.
Yeah, I really hate light mode. It does feel a little bit burning in your eyes. I don't know if it's just me or what, but I literally feel burning in my eyes sometimes for some of these apps.
Yeah, so then you will be very happy at some point in the future.
I always flip everything to dark mode as soon as I can. Yeah, that's really extensive. I mean, how many other products are you guys working on at the moment? And are they also Flutter?
I mean, right now, this is the only product. This is the only real product. We're obviously working on other projects, as I said, right? We are doing like these research projects, have client projects, etc. But this is the only product which we are currently really working on. There might be some plans for other things, but we first want to get QuickFlow like in a very good state, and we want to keep. I mean, we will probably always have some people working just on QuickFlow, and then we might expand into different products in the future. But for now, QuickFlow is the focus. We want to get this. We don't think it has reached its full potential yet, and we also want to make we have customers. People keep downloading it, keep buying it, and we want to make them happy first.
I'm kind of curious about because when I looked at your website, one of the first things that popped out upper left hand corner was AI, right? And Dart's not really an AI kind of language, right? Now, how much Dart do you guys actually do, or was this the very first Dart Flutter project?
I mean, this for our company. This is, I think, the only major Dart Flutter project right now. Although, like, I have worked before at the German Research Center for Artificial Intelligence, and I actually started using Flutter there because AI, like, it's a big topic, and there we do lots of research. And what do you need for AI? You need lots of data usually, and to gather the data, you often need apps to gather the data, right? And what do you build the apps with? Well, Flutter is a pretty good solution there. So no, we don't write AI using Dart, but you can still work in the realm of AI and use Dart for that, right?
Okay. So were you the one that brought Flutter into the company, or was it already there?
I mean, the company is really got big when I was there. So did I bring Dart there? Well, I'm the primary person who started using Dart and Flutter there. Although my colleagues also liked Dart and Flutter, but they were working more like with React and TypeScript, etc., for the front ends. So you could say I'm the primary driver behind Dart and Flutter there. Yes.
Now, how did Dart and Flutter get on your radar? You said just because you're working at the previous company and they started using it to kind of wrangle all the data together.
Yeah, and then actually, like a lot of the people I worked with at the German Research Center for Artificial Intelligence, DFKI, they are now my business partners at this company. So they don't use it themselves, but they told me back then, they were my bosses, right? They told me that is a nice new technology. You can try it out back in 2018. And that's how I started using it. And then we just used it successfully for different projects. And then when here at this company, which we have founded ourselves, we had to do similar things where it was useful. We also used it. I mean, we have written some internal tools here yet as well, but we generally, even with AI, right? We try to solve problems. We don't try to use this technology specifically or that technology specifically. We try to solve problems. We look at the problem and then we choose whichever tool or technology is appropriate for that. Right? We don't try to wrangle Flutter into everything. We don't try to wrangle AI into everything. We just try to look at what is the problem and then solve it accordingly.
Now, it's kind of interesting that you say that, because it sounds like Flutter has both solved some problems, but also brought new problems, right?
Yeah, that is true. It is obviously, the advantages are obvious to building it in Flutter versus building it. I mean, I already talked about it, Electron or native apps, but I also talked about the issues, right? Flutter is not completely mature yet for desktop platforms. Yeah, but I still think overall it was worth it to wrangle with these problems, because we are now much more flexible for future developments than we would be with the other options. And I think the other options, they also would have had some kinds of troubles, right? So we did go through some pains there, but overall, also with like the better developer experience, etc. I think it was worth it.
Now, I always like to hear, I mean, obviously this podcast is all about Flutter, so I mean, I could go on and on about all the positive things, right? Now, if you could name the top 3 to 5 negative parts about working with Flutter for this application, what would you say? I think you've kind of already mentioned, multi-window support is a little bit of a hack and a problem, right? I mean, you don't have to use this one, but that's a really good one, I think.
That's definitely one of the top ones. Then, I mean, mostly like basic feature support, obviously, like the menu system. I mean, I think they have one now. It doesn't support all of the features which we would need yet, like all of the other kinds of these small things, right? Like being able to copy stuff other than plain text without having to implement it yourself. Having like the app actually refresh at a screen refresh rate instead of like this wonky 60 FPS thing on a promotion display. Having like maybe the ability to build like a document app, which is associated with some document type in some more native and cross-platform way. Like all of the stuff which we had to build, which was a lot of pain, and which now chains us a little bit to the macOS platform. If that was all a bit better natively supported, like it is in Electron, etc. So it's actually mostly it, like feature support and bug fixes related to desktop support.
Okay. Now, have you discovered any bugs while working with Flutter and submit them back to the Flutter team? Because I think you guys have done some pretty deep diving, right?
Yes, we have discovered some bugs like this. I mean, this screen refresh thing, and like also a memory leak when you with our hack, when we open a new Flutter window and close it again, then not all of the memory gets released because somehow the Flutter engine doesn't get cleaned up properly because it doesn't expect to be opened and closed again. This we also reported, but I think they will probably just implement real multi-window support instead of fixing this. We have reported one bug which they actually have fixed and which was released in Flutter, which is when you open the emoji picker on a text field that is inside of a transform or an interactive viewer. The emoji picker always appeared on the bottom left of the screen instead of at a text field location. So we reported that and they actually fixed that, and now the emoji picker always appears on the correct location, even in the transform canvas. So we have opened some issues, and they acknowledged them, and some of them they fixed, some of them might be fixed in the future.
Okay. I mean, it sounds like it's been a real interesting kind of journey. Are you finding lots of interesting bugs?
Yeah, I mean, not many apps probably built using Flutter are like this, right? Where usually you have some kinds of screens and then you navigate between the screens, etc. I mean, we barely have any navigation structure in our app. We just have one huge screen with like a canvas where there could be hundreds of items on there, and which can be transformed, etc. And that's a pretty different use case compared to what Flutter normally is used for. But it works. I mean, we built some prototypes initially because we weren't sure ourselves if this would even work from a performance perspective. For example, what happens if you have like a canvas with like 200, 300 nodes and transform it. But we built some prototypes initially, and it was promising, and it is still working pretty well now. Although we had to have to do some optimizations to how we structure our widgets, etc., to make sure that it doesn't bog down when you navigate the canvas, but also when you like track certain widgets across the canvas.
Okay, yeah, that seems quite full. I don't know. I really don't have any more questions because I feel like we've gone through quite a lot. You're quite a fast talker for somebody who's not a native English speaker, and I understood all of it, right? And I think you've definitely given me some good perspectives, and I think the hack that you guys have for opening up multiple instances and communicating natively is definitely one way to do it. And I'm curious because there's also, I think there's some multi-window support in some other apps. I'm wondering if they're doing the same thing or not.
Probably.
Yeah, so it sounds like the native way to go, right? So that's interesting.
I looked at like some of the open source solutions there, and I think most of them use the same hack to get multi-window support.
Yeah, the only other thing I'm kind of curious about is there some packages that really help to make your app very useful that you can talk about? Like some packages that are saying like this package is useful, that package is useful in our app.
There are many.
There are many. Well, I mean, I did see like when we sent over the question sheet, you answered MobX and Provider. You're using both at the same time, right?
Yes, exactly. We use a provider to provide the MobX stores. MobX is very, very helpful. Originally, we didn't use. We tried to do it without MobX or some other state management solutions, but with MobX, like the reaction, so you can really selectively react to all kinds of things. Is really helpful, and also so far we didn't run into any performance issues because with some of these things we also have lots of computed variables. We need to have a lot of complex interdependencies, and it handles it very well. Although sometimes the debugging can be a bit difficult because it breaks. Sometimes it breaks like stepping through the debugging. So MobX is definitely one which is very helpful for us. Like we also use like for the calculations of the connectors, we use the Bézier package because you have to do like mathematical calculations for like the hit testing, etc. We have like obviously all of the JSON serializable annotation packages for file formats, etc. UID package. I mean, lots of these also pretty standard packages. The revenue cat package made it pretty easy to do the in-app purchase things and subscription things, and yeah, these are some of the most noteworthy packages. Also, like the undo package we use to because undo redo is like must be supported by a proper editor, right? So we use that as a basis for building our undo redo system, and it also works. I mean, it is pretty complicated in some cases because it supports some pretty complex operations, but we also make a pretty heavy use of these kinds of systems.
I'm also kind of curious about the file, right? So you have a custom file type that you save all the data, right?
Yeah, and it's essentially actually pretty simple. So the actual file format is in JSON, and we also save like a PDF preview for quick look, which we have implemented also ourselves, and then we just package it in a zip file essentially, and this is then the file format. So it's very small, usually only a few kilobytes each of our files, but it supports very high quality preview, and it's also just a JSON file essentially, which stores our actual file format.
And you said you can share this with other people and work together on them, or how does that work?
I mean, it's just files. You can do with them whatever you want, right? You can send them to anyone you want to send them to. You could even write your own tool to read the JSON data structure. I mean, if anybody wants to do that, they probably should contact us so we can tell them the file format, how it works. And Yeah, it's just a file, right? You can do with it whatever you can do with the file, right? We do not currently have like real-time collaboration features. We might build that in the future, but it's obviously a pretty complex feature. So we will see if enough people use QuickFlow, we might think that this investment is worth it.
Yeah, it would be interesting to have this QuickFlow on something like a Figma online, and people can work together. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, I mean, maybe this because Flutter has web support. Maybe it's even possible to build such integrations, right? Then use the Flutter web export and then integrate it as a website somehow into these tools, or also maybe in Teams or something like that. That it would be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it'd also be interesting to like share this with somebody, and like if you have the app installed, it open up natively. If not, you can use this kind of guest view, which is basically the web app, right? I think that'd be kind of interesting.
That's actually that's also not so. Just so you mean just some kind of web viewer?
Wait a minute, I need a consulting fee to answer this kind of question. If you're asking me, but yeah, I mean, yeah, it would be, I think because you can have what's it called, deep linking, right?
Mm-hmm.
So with that deep linking, if you have the app installed, it would automatically open up the app on your computer. And if you didn't, then obviously the website open up, and then you can edit together, whatever. Does that make sense?
Yeah, if you can get a way to open the file automatically in the web browser from the operating system itself.
Yeah, I mean, I'm almost wondering if you'd have some kind of, I mean, one way you can probably do it would be if you had some kind of intermediary server, you'd have a socket connection from, obviously the host computer up to that server, and then that would be broadcasted down from, the other side connecting. That could be one way to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we will look into some of these sharing and collaboration features more in the future. I mean, first we will probably go through like the Apple ecosystem and put it on all of the different Apple platforms natively, and then we will see if there's enough demand to build these kinds of features, because that would be very cool, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. Okay.
I have seen some demos of like real-time collaborations built already with Flutter apps, and so there's definitely, you wouldn't be the first probably to build that feature at least.
No, I mean, it seems like nowadays everybody's doing some type of real time collaboration of some sort, real time connections and all that stuff. So it shouldn't be too hard. And I know for sure you can do it in Dart, because I've seen a guy who made last episode we have a guy who made a video game, and he did everything in binary format, and he has a really nice looking video game that all runs in the browser. And so it was quite surprising.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, essentially, Flutter works like a game engine, but for apps, right? Because it paints all of its own pixels, etc.
Yeah, you get quite specific. So yeah, cool. I mean, like I said, I don't have any more questions, and I think you answered everything and beyond, and it's really exciting what you were able to build.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, I mean, is there anything else I've missed, or is there some kind of shout out you want to do, or anything before we wrap up?
Shout out to my colleagues who helped build and design and feedback the app, and I was very glad to be on your podcast, and I hope your listeners find it useful.
Yeah, I know there's lots of people love to use this kind of app. For me, I don't see the value in it, but I do like to take notes with the pen. So maybe it's a digital way of doing the same thing, where you can also sometimes draw out a flow. So maybe I should probably try it out. It's the do the free version, right?
I mean, we will probably build like the pen support if we build the iPad version. We'll need to see how well we can support it. But I think there are some interesting opportunities there, right? To build like an app which kind of mixes together some of the advantages of the pen and some automatic layout stuff.
Yeah, I do remember seeing people talking about iPad and pen quite some time ago. So there must be some decent support for it.
Yeah, definitely for the scribble feature at least.
Oh yeah, or to mark up somebody's terrible mapping, to grade it, right?
I mean, it's when you enter like a text into a text field on the iPad, you can write with the pen, and then instead of typing, and then it will enter it as text.
So yeah, scribble the text or something like that.
Yeah, that's definitely supported. I think I read it.
Yeah, but I thought you were talking about like drawing custom shapes or something like that to be part of the diagram.
Yeah, that is definitely an interesting thing. I mean, I'm not sure if we will build it for this, or if it's even the most efficient way to do it for this kind of app. But it's definitely an interesting thing. And we will have some kind of pen support if you build an iPad app, so you can easily use all of it with the app, I hope.
Okay. Well, for sure, you have to be able to support the finger, right? So yeah, I guess being a pen shouldn't be too much more difficult. Probably be more smaller, more precise, right?
Yeah, and some additional opportunities like different text inputs, etc. So, but it should probably be similar to a mouse in a lot of ways.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah. It's always it makes me very angry, like when I have like a delivery driver, right? They drop off something that asks me to write my name with my finger. That makes me so angry, you know? It's always so difficult.
And it never looks any way close to your signature, right?
My signatures don't look the same no matter if I use a pen or not, to be honest. I always get in trouble with the bank. They actually ask me to like quote unquote forge my own signature. It's like, this is your signature. Can you copy this? I'm like, wait a minute, you want me to copy my own signature? We can't say that, but this is what your signature looks like. Can you please look at this for reference or something? I forgot how the words they use.
Well, that's definitely how it was intended to be used.
Yeah. Oh, God, the banks are crazy. Anyways, again, thanks for your time, and I love the app. That's why I asked you to come on, and I learned a lot from your experiences, and I hope people will also learn a lot from what you talked about today too.
Thank you as well. And if you want to try QuickFlow, it's on the Mac App Store.
Yeah, it's the website's QuickFlow.app, right?
Exactly. It's like QuickFlow, but without the C. So how you would intuitively spell it, but without the C and then .app.
Awesome. Thank you again for coming on, and maybe we'll have you back again in the future.
Thank you. Would be glad to.